I'll add the cast modifier to this low poly head mesh. This modifier shifts a mesh towards 3 preset shapes: a sphere, a cylinder, or a cuboid. By default, the shape is positioned at the same origin point as the mesh. Seeing that the head is well above the origin point, you can see how the sphere only seems to deform the bottom part of the head. Let's tab into edit mode, and I'll make sure that the cast modifier will allow us to see the changes while editing. So I'll enable the edit and cage settings in the modifier. I'll select all the vertices, then hitting G and Z, I'll move the mesh down towards its origin point. You can sort of make out the sphere around which this shape deforms. To make this clearer, I'll add a sphere object and I'll set its viewport shading to wire and set its viewport display in front. As I move the object around again in edit mode, we can get a better idea of what's going on. By default, the modifier will cast the mesh out in all 3 axes, but we can constrain this effect to 2 or 1. The factor is set to 0.5 by default. Now, this is midway between 0, which will have no effect, and 1, which will show the shape that the mesh is deforming towards. Pushing the factor beyond 1 or below 0 can cause some interesting or unintended effects. This is because the transition is mapped along a linear gradient, and therefore it will extrapolate the position of each vertex and will push it further along that curve. The radius will give us a boundary to which the effect can be limited to. Any part of the mesh which extends beyond this radius will not be deformed. The size will determine how far away from the origin point the effect will project. If you combine this with the radius, you can get some odd results. So if you require something smoother, try enabling the size from radius setting. Now, the radius will dictate this factor, and the result between the original mesh and the cast shape is smoothed out. The size is completely disregarded. You can, of course, assign this modifier to a single vertex group, or invert the selection, and only those vertices will be affected. Finally, you can use an object to adjust the center from which the shape is cast. I'll select the sphere which I used to demonstrate the boundary earlier, and moving that around, you can achieve the inverse of having to move the object's own vertices in relation to its point of origin. Note the Use Transform option. If this is disabled, the rotation and scale is ignored and only the object's position affects the cast. I'll now enable Use Transform, and I'll switch the cast shape to a cuboid so we can better see how this works. Now, I can use the object's scale and rotation in the effect as well.